Mr. Speaker, ladies and gentlemen, it's very simple. The reason why we have to call out women who oppose the feminist movement and who oppose feminism and call out their false consciousness is the same reason we call out people with delusion or people who believe in fake news in the attempt to revise history. It's because there's just too much risk. There's too much risk that these people will become deluded in what they believe to be true by virtue of their own subjectivity, whether that be through straight out ignorance or maybe even malintent. But furthermore than that, it's because they might gaslight other people on the sole basis that these people do not experience what they experience because they're from a different part of the world. They might have different socio-economic upbringings and other different realities like proximity and whatnot that shape their own reality. Therefore, it's in the interest of the feminist movement to challenge the lens in which these other women see it in order to be able to arrive at the truth and create empathy in order to really help women. Before I move on to the issues in this debate, a few extemporaneous responses against the previous speaker. Firstly, CG asked us, why would these people listen? We think that these people would listen because there's a chance that what they believe is by virtue of their own subjectivity. Just like the deadlock we saw in opening, right? Someone might come from a conservative society, another person might come from a liberal society, but that doesn't mean one is wrong or the other is right. It might mean a lack of information to be able to make an informed decision. People can freely change their mind. The fact that what they might experience is subject to what they've experienced, meaning either out of abuse, either because of the patriarchy, is precisely why we need to tell them this information. But secondly, even if they don't listen, it's fine, because at least we can say we've tried, right? As opposed to running the risk that they're never going to be able to make an informed decision, but worse, malevolent actors, whether they be within the feminist movement or outside the feminist movement, run the risk of using the delusion that these people believe, which we argue in this debate might be true or untrue, is precisely the point in which they get away with gaslighting other people. Wherein people who are women, who are from privilege, can tell poorer women, the reason why you are continuing to be poor is because you aren't working hard enough. But in reality, these women who are saying that come from a privileged background and have a silver spoon. That's exactly why we need to have a chance for the feminist movement to be able to tell them those particular things. Even if they get offended, who gives a shit, right? These women are offending other people by virtue of them thinking that these problems aren't real and they need to be brought to the light, they need to be informed. There are three things in this debate, other rebuttals will be integrated. What is the best strategy for the feminist movement to take? Yes, this is a value judgment, but there's an embedded actor notion, the crux of the round. Number two, where can we have better discourse, breaking the deadlock from opening? And third, where can we really create more empathy and galvanize support for more women and make women feel safer? The heart of Jared's extension. Firstly, we think that if a woman opposes the feminist movement, later I said via chat, if a woman opposes the feminist movement, yeah, that's a legit and valid choice to be able to have. And that might exist for a multitude of reasons. A, birth lottery of your own experiences, meaning a rich woman who might not believe in the gender wage gap by virtue of her having a silver spoon and being raised up to it. B, a victim of their own environment and understanding. Just like what opening said, right? They talked about how there are women in a conservative society, and we tell you that those women are the victims. They might be indoctrinated by the patriarchy or their abuser husband who they're afraid of going against, and now they have this misrepresented understanding that, hey, the feminist movement is just about whether or not I cook or I not cook, right? So we think that these are the very women who are drinking the Kool-Aid that society has brought upon them, that we need to tell them and challenge the lens in which they see these particular things in order to prevent more delusion and in order to prevent them from hurting other people. But sure, POI, go ahead.
You can't just dismiss people being offended because this dilutes your entire case, because this will be hijacked by conservatives in the attempt to strike the concept of feminism.
We think that it's largely symmetrical and value neutral, because on both sides, everyone's gonna get offended, guys. Like the world we live in today, someone's offended about something, so why not offend the people who believe in something wrong? Because I think everyone here in this debate do recognize that The gender wage gap does exist, of course, to different extents, looking at the paying tax and its implementation in other parts of the world. But we think furthermore, it doesn't necessarily matter whether or not these women change their mind, because we think the point in which we don't call them out at the point in which it might offend them is exactly where they might end up lying to themselves and making wrong decisions for the rest of their life. And that might be exactly what it takes for them not to get out of that particularly toxic environment. We think that what actually pushes women, just like what opening talked about, to actually stand up against their husband is when they know they have the feminist movement behind them. When they know that they have hope and they know they have very people who are able to actually deal with that. We think that a range of outcomes can actually happen. One, the woman could not change their mind, but at least be contributed to their body of knowledge and experience and widen their worldview. That's literally a marginal benefit you only get on our side, because on side government, I'm not entirely sure what they're gonna do different to solve the problem that they posited. Probably nothing, and we think status quo doesn't really work. Number two, the point in which they do change their mind is a win for the feminist movement, because now someone who previously was against you converted. But we think larger than that, the heart of Jared's expression was other people paying attention to this. Allies, ladies and gentlemen, whether they're women, whether they're men, people watching this narrative unfold, we don't want them to run into the risk of delusion and having false misrepresentations about the movement. In order for people to truly understand more about the movement and what it stands for, we need to call out people on their false consciousness, even if these things are valid, because it limits their capacity to truly understand and make informed decisions. What have we really told you coming from our side? Firstly, we told you that yes, people can get offended, but that's not necessarily an overarching thing. In fact, when people are offended, it's exactly what pushes them to challenge structural limitations and go against what they previously thought was impossible. Hence why a lot of feminist movement ideologies only got to the point we are today when we weren't afraid to call people out, when we weren't afraid to call men out, when we weren't afraid to tell fellow strands within the movement that what they did was wrong and they have to check each other. So for all of these reasons, we take the round in terms of empathy, in terms of scope and scale, and we're very proud to oppose.